And then around noon, I'm done. Like it goes, even if I'm gonna try to do something, my brain has now depleted to -10.
Yeah.
That is like my chill time. I don't care what that is or what it looks like to other people. I don't care. But I'm like,
That's your brain reset.
yes.
Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning.
We are at our 8th Contractor Coalition Summit.
8th, oh my gosh.
Boom, that's amazing. 8.
And you've been here since day one.
I know, yeah. Well, that is 3.5 years since Nashville.
Feels like 10.
It
also.
does. And it also feels like one day.
Yeah, but I mean in development-wise, like, oh my gosh, what we've done in the last 3.5 years.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about this one is, when the Contractor Coalition Summit first started, it was an idea of how do we take all these things that we go through, operations, how do we share it with people? And it's an evolution, just as our own personal businesses, as well as other companies' businesses that come here, we're all trying to solve problems. We're all trying to level up. We're all trying to be a better version of ourselves personally and professionally. What are some stories that you've heard, or what are some problems that you've talked to people about that when they come to the Contractor Coalition, that's why they came to solve a problem?
Are you referring to like this one or any of them?
Anyone, honestly.
Something I've just seen in the last 24 hours, which has been just crazy. And I think one of the best things that we did at this conference that we haven't done at others, and we kind of thought it was a wild idea, but you were just like, let's have everyone stand up and share one of their worst horror stories. And I'm like, yesterday, we went so deep, so fast. And yeah, it was up till 2 a.m, just like talking to people and things that they're going through or had been through. And one of my questions is always like, what was your journey like finding here? Like, why are you here right now in this room? Like, was it from, and I'm curious from a marketing standpoint, but I'm also just like, that's pretty telling of like what the problems are to bring you that you're like, I need to come to Contractor Coalition. And yeah, I was smirking because I was just like, the conversations last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still just like emotional about them because I'm like, so what happened last night was like, it just showed vulnerability immediately. Egos in the room left, and everyone was just like real and open and honest, and it was just like very relatable. And so yeah, I'm just like, the biggest problem is just the impact of the emotional damage of what we're doing, right? And like day to day. And so it's like they're just like, a lot of them like, I don't even know why I need to be here, but I knew I needed to be here, and like here are the things I'm going through. And it's just like, and to me, I'm like, there's no coincidence why every single person is either here now or was here at past ones. And, even another guy was like, I tried to make it to this, but now I finally could make it to this one. And I was like, there's a reason that you could make it to this one and not past ones. And then a journey he was going through, and I was just like, ugh.
I think the reason I sort of had the idea, so we did an Icebreaker, right? So we did our kickoff event, we did home tours. Usually when we interview people at the end of the Contractor Coalition, the bond is super tight. People have all these wonderful conversations at dinner. Obviously the classroom stuff that they learn is amazing, but there's so many avenues where we're learning in self-development. And I want to accelerate the process of people getting to know each other. One thing that personally that I've noticed over the last couple of years, just having a podcast, is that I'm interested in authentic and real conversations. And the more real that somebody gets, the more we connect with them as on a human level, in a way that the bond is tighter and stronger.
Right.
And so by doing something difficult on day one, this was our beta test. We didn't know if it would work or not, right?
Yeah.
And so we're like,
I was just a little bit like, I don't want, because I always want positivity and all this. So I'm like, I just don't want it to turn into like a negative. But I knew like the underlying power that it could have. And I was like, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, people shared some really deep, troubling, dark things that have happened to them in their career or in their lives, or
and
things
that
that
are happening right now.
Yeah, 2 of them were like right now. And so I think one of the things about entrepreneurship, it's not just building, but it's also an entrepreneur, is that it can be very lonely. And I think one of the strongest bonds about the Contractor Coalition Summit is that people feel safe, They feel connected because you aren't coming here if you think you know it all.
Yeah.
You aren't coming here if you think you have nothing to learn. So like people, you've said it since day one in Nashville, your vibe attracts your tribe. And the people that come here, they're all of the same emotional tribe. They're all part of the same community that want to be a better version of themselves. And because of that open heart and open mind, it's no wonder the relationships are so sticky and so wonderful. I know from a leadership position, it's really rewarding. I said it last night, like, as I'm looking at the people there, there's a part of me that's nostalgic. This is something that you wouldn't have experienced because I was an attendee first and then became, part of leadership. And for me, it was like, I almost wish I could go back 3.5 years ago because I was so happy that, they're coming in, they have no idea the world they're about to walk into. And it's kind of like,
we can like see their future, what's about to happen.
Buckle up, or buckle up, buttercup. Like it's gonna get real.
If you lean into it, like if you, and you kind of said that in a way last night, like if you say yes and lean into wherever you're being called with these people, go, get ready and embrace it, because a lot of good things will fall into place.
I mean, it's transformational. It's wonderful. It's not meant to be woo-woo. It's meant to just be real.
Yes.
And we live in a world where we just love real. I know. Or I love real. I just love people that want to be better, and you can't be better unless we kind of get through the struggle together. And so I think credit to Tyler. We were even talking about this in a marketing point of view. Like, we need to do a better job on our end to communicate to the public at large of what problems are we solving at a Contractor Coalition Summit. We're talking about probably the loneliness factor of owning a business, but also like operationally, like how can you improve? There's so many things that we learned during this. Are there any builders that sort of have said, like, I'm here to learn this, or we're too early in this session, or maybe even past ones where people say, I came to solve this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say directly, because I think we're all trying to figure out a lot of things. But one conversation even this morning at breakfast, he, and like many people too, they've had a past life, past careers, now in this very business mindset focus, but this is another, whole, he's like, I thought this would be a little bit more easier than, because the things he's done, it's like, whoa. And he's like, one of my partners was like, are you done yet? Like, this was fun. Now let's try a different industry, right? And he's like, no, because there's something, but it's like, that just is so telling of like all these things that from operationally, right? But it's like, it's hard because every project's different, every person's different, so I wouldn't say it's like a direct, if there has been a problem that I've had conversations with people, it's a lot of just the emotional things. And something that I've actually been leaning into over the last couple of months and that I've been thinking deeper on is just like your emotional intelligence IQ. And so I've been reading a lot about this, and because I've just been thinking, I'm always, and this is something I have to do daily, of just like protecting my peace, any chaos. Like, I look back at my day and I'm just like, where was the chaos that just like sent me off the deep end? And kind of being like, can I remove that chaos? Or like, is it something that was just today and will like keep, And so just stuff like that, where I was like, I've had this mindset of like, I want to be surrounded by people that are invested in their emotional intelligence, because what has led to chaos in my everyday life is like, people ask, like, they just don't have that. And that's a hard thing to explain unless you've done a little bit of research on this. But I'm like, that is something that I'm like, I want to dive deeper into and share, and and just that people that aren't there, that's a huge thing of running a business, is basically what I'm saying. I forgot even where this started from.
I think it's funny because we're looking for, connecting to people, and I think the emotional IQ and how we self-regulate it, there's very few things that are as emotionally driven than the construction, design, architecture world that we are all in, right? I've often said that I think, other than a wedding, I think building a home or remodeling a home is the most emotional. It takes a lot of financial investment in it, and you're in someone's homes. It's very intimate, and so I had a designer once that I interviewed, and she actually said, she didn't realize it at the time, she'd been a designer for 20 years. She said, I actually went to school to be a psychologist. And she actually said, I feel that a lot of the interactions that happens, we joke kind of in the industry, like, hey, it's kind of like we're a marriage therapist.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, we're therapists in the sense like you have to be really good at your craft. Then you have to be good at running a business. Then you have to be able to relate to people. I mean, the skill set that's required to be an entrepreneurial business owner in the field of custom homes, it's a unicorn. They're really rare skill sets. Or you have to build, of course, a team that can handle it, because no one person can do everything. Even like look at our leadership, right? We've commented about this before. Like, so Brad, Nick, Tyler, yourself, and me. Like how different each one of our personalities are. Like if you were to do a Venn diagram, we would probably represent the entire color wheel of a disc assessment. That would actually be
our strengths and
there's certain overlaps, right? Like you and I overlap in certain areas, or whoever. And I think as a team, what makes us so effective, and I hope our appeal to the country, in terms of who wants to come, is that there's something for everyone. And when I ask people, I love to ask, how did you hear about it? Not from an ego standpoint, but we also want to know. But also like,
that's kind of the question of like your journey.
How did you get here?
Yeah.
And the 3 people I asked last night at the kickoff dinner came the same way I did. Their wife told them to come.
Oh, I love.
So my wife.
See, they know. They're like.
Their wife knows that they're struggling because they're their partner. They understand like you can't do this alone. You need help. And it's what's so cool is how many husband and wife teams that we've seen come through. Anyway, that was the 3 people I talked to last night. Their wives were like, one gentleman was like, he's in South Carolina. He said, my wife, put me on to your podcast. And, he talked about episodes that he'd listened to. And then he said, well, I heard you talk about the Contractor Coalition Summit. And I thought, well, maybe I better do that. And so it's just interesting people's journey, to get there.
But that all comes back to, and that's where I went on that emotional intelligence, because it's like a lot of these problems, what I'm hearing is I'm like that. Because it's emotional, but also it's very business. But we don't know the underlying of, a lot of these things that we have to figure out. So it's like they don't know. But I'm sitting there listening, I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Like,
here's something.
And that's what wives knows.
Wives are they're emotional. Their empathy is much higher generally than men. One thing that I haven't told you this, that I had a conversation. We were doing the tour of the Willis Towers. I think one of the things I really like about what we've been doing is, usually when we go to a new city, we'll go and tour either a couple homes. But yesterday was unique. We got to tour, a home, but then we got to go tour one of the tallest buildings in the United States. For 40 years, it was the tallest building in the world, the Willis Tower. And going through that and just having an appreciation for the craft. What I was blown away, it took only 3.5 years to build. I'm like,
I know.
Like
I had so many questions, and I was like, don't ask them all.
4.6 million square feet in 3.5 years. I'm like, just wild appreciation for it. Where I was going with this, though, clumsily, was where was I going with this? I had a point. Coalition, how people. The building group from Montana. He came to Minneapolis. He came and visited me at my office. He brought 4 people on his team. He's got his carpenter, his CFO, and his operational person here. And I said, you're back a second time. Why did you bring everyone on your team? He goes, not only did I bring them all, I paid for all of them with one thing that I learned at the Contractor Coalition Summit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's amazing.
What?
So when it was so many people talk about the pre-construction agreement. And so he said, Brad and Nick were talking about contracts, about having your pre-construction agreement, what the rate is, how much you should charge, how to value your time, and then the key element, not crediting that amount to the build cost, because you're essentially doing the work for free. I made that mistake for 7-8 years, and Nick was like, well, no wonder you got so many signed, you're doing it for free. And I went back and made that change, and we heard this, Dennis Miller, did that when he was in Omaha. And he told me, he went back, he's in a 2nd generation business. He told his dad, and his dad's like, no one will ever pay a $15,000 pre-construction agreement. He goes, Dad, let me just try. He told me the other day, they booked $100,000 in pre-construction agreement in 6 months only, and it all goes to the bottom line. Now, granted, you have to pay for it, but it's like money that they wouldn't capture. And his dad was just like, I didn't know that you could even do this. And credit to Dennis to say that, hey, we could do this. But a similar story to this Montana couple, business is now he's like, we've made enough money that I can bring my whole team this time. and it's all been paid for.
Well, and that's
because of
genius
that.
because you can't, all the things we learn and coach and all that, it's like, you can't implement all that on your own, because that's why you kept coming back too. So it's like bringing people and it's like just doing it, right? And then having them do it and delegate. And yeah, I'm like, genius. And oh my gosh.
It was really inspiring.
That
but I mean,
is incredible.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that I just want people to be the best version of themselves that they can be.
Yep.
And I love hearing that people can reclaim their time. It's not about profitability, you need profit. Like, profit's not a dirty word.
Yeah.
Like, profit allows you to protect your life, to set boundaries.
Right.
I think today I'm actually excited. This will be my first presentation, and I get to talk about.
It's such a great one.
You've heard it before down in Texas, but boundaries create freedom, and it's not from a place of I know this. It's a place from I'm sharing this, and hopefully it's inspiring.
Right. And it's something that you work on continuing to develop every single day.
And you got to keep tweaking it. Your kids get older, your relationships, with your family, with other people. Yeah. It's not static.
Yeah, it's a season. I always think about that too, because everything is a season, as in it's become kind of like a joke with, Kayla and our team and stuff. But I'm like, because I'll be like, it's a new season and it's just a new day. And I'm like, but it's always evolving and shifting. And I hope every day is a new season because I want myself and our team every day to be growing and learning and to be truly doing stuff in work that, gives them joy. Because it's just, and I know words like that are always thrown out too much, and even boundaries one. I think that's now sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm done with boundaries because, what?
You can use it for a crutch. I mean,
yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, people are using it for that way, whereas now I'm like, but yes, I'm like, that's what it is. But I'm like, it's removing the chaos is what boundaries is, and whatever that looks like, And so I think a lot of times people are like, oh, boundaries, like I'm gonna work 9 to 5. I'm like, that's not boundaries. Like, boundaries are protecting different things to be ensuring that joy stays intact every day.
I mean, to be fair, it might be that 9 to 5, depending on what you do with it, right?
Correct.
So it's so situational because I have someone that has set a boundary in my personal life, but it's a crutch.
Yes.
It's not, and so so much of it depends on what your boundary is. And sometimes we need to create boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah.
For myself, kudos to my wife. Like, we have dinner every night at 5:30, which means I pick up the kids at 4:55, or I'm gonna be a pumpkin, and then I'm home at 5.
Yeah.
But that's a boundary.
I know, I love that.
But I have it even in my contract.
Yeah.
That
wow.
I won't answer a text, an email, or a call from 4:58 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. the next day.
Okay, that is really cool.
That's my boundary.
That in your contract though, because then that shows up front too. Like, these things are super important to me. Because one thing I heard last night that also I was just like, wow. Someone was sharing one of their stories and they were partners, and I don't want to fully go into sharing someone else's story, but the thing was, he said, my partner was going on his honeymoon and the absolute worst thing happened, and he tried to protect his partner so he could enjoy his honeymoon. I was like,
that hit
because
hard.
To me, yes, I was like, because the second he said that, I thought of when Beckham was born. Oh, I don't even want to think about it because I'll cry, but I'm like, my 3 months, because we had a client, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just started thinking about these moments of my kids' lives where it's like, these break back.
Well, and shout out, I think it's Maya Angelou. My wife quotes it all the time, so my joke is that Maya Angelou's gonna have to start quoting my wife, but it's people.
She does have everything you shared with me. I'm like, yes.
People forget what you say, but they never forget how you make them feel.
Yes.
And I think there's so many things that we learn at the Contractor. Obviously, there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conversations. The stories, the stories we heard on that opening night, in some of the sidebar conversations I had were so deep. I'll remember those for sure because of how deep they were. But even if you forgot those, the spirit of generosity, the spirit of care, the spirit of how can I help you? How can I be a servant to your mission?
Right.
How can I help you on your journey? Anyway, I think it goes so far beyond business, but but it's all kind of together. I mean,
but you're just saying that, I'm like, I should put that in my contract, like these milestone moments of my kids' lives, because even we're going through something right now. And I was talking to Katie Kath from JCath, and you know, we're debating what to do here, and she was like, it went back to joy, you know, she's like, you know, the holidays, and all of a sudden it hit me like, you know, and I'm a mom and of 3, and I just sat, because I'm still like, how is my oldest 11? Like, sometimes, because people will be like, what's your kids' ages? And I used to say 3, 6, 9. I think yesterday, and I'm like, wait.
I'm off 2 years.
Grayson's 11, 9, 5. I'm like, what is happening? And so I'm always doing the math of like, I have X amount of Christmases, right? And so then I sat there and I'm like, do I want one of my 6 Christmases left feeling like getting joy sucked out of me? And then I was like, you know, we know what to do, but I'm like, I needed this couple days of clarity to like just take a moment out of the business to really think about this. And so, yeah, now I'm thinking, you're just saying that in your contracts, and it might sound, you know, silly, but it does not. But I'm like, having that, like these milestone moments.
Someone mentioned in a
conversation.
Someone mentioned in a conversation last night. You know, we want to fight the race to the bottom. You know, you do 1%, I do 1% lower, and then the client basically wins. We're doing more work for less, but we're just too valuable for what we do. And so we had this conversation last night, and someone had said that when he holds firm on his price, the client respects him more. But when he decreases his own value, he decreases the respect level in his client's eyes. I really appreciate that because, you know, I think, but if we don't believe the person in the mirror, ourselves, like why would a client believe us? And so I think the hardest critic is ourselves. I remember coming here, you know, 3.5 years ago to Nashville and seeing like, you know, what somebody like a Brad Levitt would charge margin-wise, or a Nick Schiffer. I'm like, well, I'm not that, you know, and so it's like, well, in my market's different. Every builder will say, oh, my market's different. Oh, you know, they can do that, but I can't. But here's the thing, everybody can. And I did. I said, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? They'll tell me no. But see, I didn't believe my own message, my own self-worth. I did it, and it was not an issue. And we've almost doubled our margin on the homes that we do, which really just puts in perspective that for 18 years, I was giving my clients a smoking deal. And granted, I learned, I've evolved, and personally, but like you are worth it. You are, and if it's not, they're not the right client. I mean, literally right now in the other room, they're talking about identifying your ideal client. These are all the funnels, but again, we have to believe it too. And if we don't, I think we're also sometimes the hardest person to convince that not only are we worth it, but also that, you know, our craft and our deliverables are this, and it's fair. Anyway, I think knowing that, talking about that, and hearing it from somebody else who's already been on their journey, they've already figured out, is super inspiring to hear them say that. Yeah, oh my gosh, and that just, I'm already spiraling in my head because I was like, we need something on building the confidence. Like, because that is a hard thing to figure out. And well, Doug talked about that from Motif Media. Shout out to Dougie. So I interviewed him in Omaha, and he's interviewed, I think, all of them except one. So he's been at 7, not that it matters. But I said, you're in a unique position because you're filming us, you're watching us grow as business people, as leaders. I mean, he gets to kind of watch it, you know, from the lens of, you know, James Cameron's, you know, point of view. And so, and then also all the attendees. I said, what's the common thread that you've seen through all of it? Do you know what his answer?
My gosh, do you know
what his answer was?
I don't know. No.
Just take a guess.
Confidence.
It was confidence.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he said the way people came and the way people left, their confidence was exponential different. But I would imagine that's true even with the leadership. Like, no one is above, like, you know, we've all dealt with really toxic clients or really difficult personal situations or whatever it is. I mean, like what Nick went through a couple months ago, I can't imagine having to go through that, and it's just tragic. And so it's like, whew, having those people you can relate to and talk to is super powerful. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And I always say too, I'm like, one of the things that, the most attractive quality in my husband, and I'll always be like, I'm so glad that you are this way. He's a very confident man, because then I can be who I am, live my best life. Like, there's nothing in him, you know, so I'm like, I'm just so glad that you have that. But we just went through a recent experience too, and we had a client on a phone call him incompetent like 5 times, and I was like, what?
I know, and he just kind of,
I need address,
sat there.
name, and a black ski mask.
But even that, the next morning, he like woke up and he's like, all I dreamt about last night was him, his face, going, you're incompetent, you're incompetent, you're incompetent. And I was like the most confident man I know. I was just like, wow, and this just recently happened. I was like, thank God we have Contractor Coalition next week. So you can be surrounded by these confident people. Yeah. And he said that too. He's like, to get back up again, right? Like in confidence, because that just took his confidence down.
It's funny. My wife and I have talked about, I've reflected recently about my childhood and my parents, and it relates to business too, but like you and I love to talk about the personal things and what we get for self-development and how we show up for people, our friends, our
and
clients.
How we can show up better. And
there's so few things we can actually control in our life. But my wife and I said, like, with our kids, could we instill confidence in them, and could we show them love? And if nothing else happened in their life, if they were confident and they felt loved, you've got a pretty good chance in life.
And curiosity. That's also what I said. I'm like, I want my kids to forever stay curious. So they never are falling one way or the other way. I don't even care. Politically, religion, all that. I'm like, I always want them to ponder and wonder and then be like, oh, that's cool. Even if because I'm like, that will get them so far.
I just thought of this. You'll love this. There's shout out to Gustavus Adolphus College in Minnesota. I did a summer and life camp with my kids this summer, and it shows up in my Boundaries Create Freedom speech. And it's a positive attitude, full effort, good sportsmanship. And I know these are sports things, but they're really life things.
Right.
And you imagine, just switch that narrative and go into a client. Did you do the best that you could? Yes or no? Did you have a positive attitude? Yes or no? Were you kind and considerate and a good sport towards them? If you can answer yes to those three things, whatever else happens, you can hold your head high and be well. And I like that it's simple. It's something kids can grasp, it's something we can grasp, but it doesn't make it easy. It makes it, just because it's simple doesn't make it easy. And so it's really been interesting to sort of think about that and sort of try to embody it. And we need these reminders. We need conversations like we're having right now. We need conversations with people to remind us of like what's important. And we're all, your season thing. We go through these seasons of life. And you and I are talking mostly about the emotional stuff. It'll be sort of interesting to hear when I interview the other guys, in their sessions.
Sorry, we can also go hard on business. I always laugh sometimes too, because people will be like, oh yeah, you like do the marketing blah. I'm like, listen, I know how to run a lean and clean and mean and money numbers machine too. So, but
I think what I like about this, this conversation, is it's real.
Yes.
It's honest. It's forthright. It's what we really are. And I think one of the things that we've talked about as a team is, the social media content is awesome, and we want people to feel like it's a family. And I do think we need to show people like problems that we're solving by coming here, like real problems. Like I've talked about this many times. Like I didn't know what the difference between margin and markup is. I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. But when you get exposed to a lot of people and you're like, oh, wow, okay.
Or people think they know things, right? And it's like you had been a build, right? Your
18 years at that time.
But for someone to also own that, because it's like you probably thought you understood, but then when you really understood, you're like, I did not understand.
And that was financial IQ. And so before we were talking about emotional IQ, and I think they're both, whatever level your IQ is, it can always go up. You can be more empathetic, you can be more understanding, and as you increase that, your world opens up just a little bit more. Same with financial IQ. The last 6 months I've been in kind of this financial journey of just trying to understand finances in a different light. And someone explained it to me like an elevator to the top floor. And he's like, right now, you're in this room, I don't know where you're at, but you're probably anywhere between the lobby and the third floor. And he goes, I can tell you, there is 27 floors that you don't even know about.
Oh, that's good.
And
but you need to get there.
Basically, your net worth is associated with your financial IQ. Your mental health is related to your emotional IQ. It's probably also related somewhat, because you can be financially stressed, obviously. It's pretty easy to say, like, and here's the thing, right? You and I know this. Brad, Nick, myself, you, Tyler, we struggle with all the same things that everyone else struggles with. And so no one is on a
matter what
pedestal.
the scale,
no one is on like some golden, throne saying, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's nonsense.
Yes.
And,
that was actually one of my favorite things that Ellie said last night. And I was like, that was bold
what
and
did
also
she say?
amazing. Well, we're thanking everyone and doing all that. And it's like we have all aspects in the room, but these people who took time and, and took us on this tour of the biggest building, right? And it's like they're billion-dollar companies, and we're all levels, and some are $50,000, right? Like all these things. And she was like, just dropped it, and she's like, and we're all at the same profitability. And I was like,
that was pretty cool.
I laughed so hard.
I saw the architect side eye her when she said that.
And grain of salt, right? But I was just like, I just took us on a total tangent wheel of your thought there. But I mean, we don't.
I mean, to piggyback on that, because she alluded to this, and then we heard it last night at the kickoff dinner. It doesn't matter where you are at, whether you make $50,000 a year, or you lost money, or you made whatever, $10 million. And like, there's businesses that are doing a couple $100,000 in revenue a year, and there's businesses that we've had through that do $50 million. It doesn't matter. They all struggle with similar things. It's scalable and relatable. And what I love hearing the conversations is the conversations that they've had. We can only, of course, be responsible for the conversations we have. How many other conversations are we not even aware of where people are being inspired?
I know.
And like, I go back to my first Contractor Coalition, like, with like Nathan Marsala, and I was still call him and talk to him. And so like, you have these multi-year relationships because of like a conversation you had having coffee. And the ripple effect that this has had on my personal life and professional life is extremely profound.
Which that's really cool too, because there's moments in every single day where just something little will happen, and I'll remember just like one drop of a conversation and think about them to be like, oh yeah, that's right, they meant, and then do, right? And I'm like, I don't have enough time in the day, but I'm like, gosh, I wish I could text. I should do more of it, but I'm like, it's happened so many times just to be like, I know that you probably like don't understand what I'm saying right now, but that one time at that coffee, right, when we were at Contractor Coalition doing this, and it's like, that just made a huge effect on what direction I just took this. That maybe was a 5-minute, but that could have led to something bigger. But I was like, wow. So yeah, those little nuggets in the conversations that you can't even put value or words, or you don't know until it actually just happens. And then you're like, oh, perfect.
One thing that was really unique, and we'll end it on this, is we're such busy people. And,
another word I'm trying to remove from my vocabulary.
Ooh,
but
what are we going to replace busy with?
Well, I actually wrote a whole blog post about this.
All right, tell me more. We'll save that question for later. This sounds way more interesting. How do we replace the word busy?
No, well, because I'm like, again, it's a crutch. That's why. So I'm like, I understand the aspect of busy. So it's funny because a lot of people have challenged me to be like, what do you use it? I'm like, full. And so now it's become a running joke with my friends. Because too, then there's situations where they're like I don't love when they're like, I know you're too busy, but, and I'm like, don't say that to me. Like, invite me or don't invite me or whatever, right? But I'm filling my days and times with things that are super important. And every single day I'm working really hard on having intentional time. And I'm like, I have a lot of windows in my day. I take a nap every day, So I'm like, I'm choosing things wisely, but that doesn't mean I'm too busy. Like, that's why.
This is way more interesting than what I was going to go. I like this. Tell me about that, because my dad, this was before emails and cell phones, we had a home office when I was growing up as a kid. And he, every day, after lunch, from it was anywhere from a half hour to an hour. And I was a little kid, I didn't know any different. And now, I'm a great napper on the weekends. I always nap with, if the kids take a nap, I'm napping too. And it's restorative. I haven't figured it out during the work week. Tell me, because this is new, right? What, a year, 6 months? How long have you been doing the nap during the day?
Nap? Well, actually, again, another conversation with someone from Contractor Coalition, but they shared with me, and this was an ADA summit, but just, I met them, right? And then now we become friends, but she was like, and again, this will be another hour, but
we got time.
But we talked about how our brains are wired. And obviously we have a different set of wires going on and a lot of cross wires, but the way, the 9 to 5, that's not how I can work. And so I have different pockets in the day. And so I have to, so I've figured out my 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., I have a very sacred time that is really important to me that I have to do. And that means getting up slow, not being rushed. I do meditation, journaling, stretching, and then that just like sets the tone. And then I've realized from 6 to 10 is my high impact. Like I just emails, anything I have to do, I crush, like things that normally might, not to comparison, but I'm like, that might take someone a week. I will get it done in 1 day and 4 hours. Like that is my gold 9 day. So also I'm like, that has to be a very, yep.
You time block that out, I assume?
I don't like, I time block it mentally, like I have that. Yeah. So yeah, like, cause then I go straight to emails and boom, boom, boom. And other people have thoughts like, have someone else manage this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nope, like I need to do a lot of my emails and then, crush that. And then, cause I can't think about other things like creatively or problem solve.
If you owe someone a message.
No, yes. So I'm like, I need to remove that from my brain. Then I can go and focus on this and get all these things done that I need to get done. And then I move into my creative time because then all that, the fires, the issue, like things that linger in my mind that need to be removed, otherwise it takes away from my creativity, and that is helping grow the brand, the company, the people. And then around noon, I'm done. Like even if I'm gonna try to do something, my brain has now depleted to -10.
Yeah.
And so whatever I call it just like my slow time, and I went back to a lot of things I'm realizing in life in general, like goes back to kids, and I know you can relate to this because you'll be like, what was this 50 years ago, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm like there's a reason why our kids needed, like my kids went from nap to no matter what, even now, I'm like, they're well past naps, but I'm like, it's gonna be chill out time, and why is it that even with kids, noon to 3, right? Like that time. So for me now, I'm like, I'm going back to that. So that is like my chill time. And a lot of times then I'm like, I might turn on Netflix, I might take a nap, and like sometimes you're like, what? But he knows now, because I'm like, this is my chill time. I don't care what that is or what it looks like to other people. I don't care. But I'm like,
that's your brain reset.
Yes. And I just gotta I might go for a walk, I might go to the grocery store, I might become a psycho cleaner during that time. So you just never know what that chill time is gonna look like. But I'm like, that is that. And then 3, normally I have 1 hour where I'm like sprint again very fast before my kids get home of anything, because then I need clarity and just things before my kids come home. Yeah. And then they come home around 4 and stuff, and it's off to the races with sports and
all the things.
Dinner and then bedtime, and then what's interesting is I sometimes get back to work. And my team has accepted it now, but there was times they're like, Morgan, 2, 4, schedule it. And I'm like, or how about just who cares? Who cares if I'm sending those emails at that time? I do not need anything back to you. You could wait a week.
Right.
But I'm like, I also don't want to schedule it because then in my mind, I'm like, did it send, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I need that out of my brain.
Yep, it's the
so I need
OCD
to send
nature
it.
of understanding. Yeah.
So then again, and it's important to Jamie to have a few hours just time together, even if we're just sitting there on the couch watching Netflix. Yeah. And so we'll have that time. And sometimes people will be like, you have time to watch shows? And I'm like, I make that time because that is time just to unwind. And also for our brains, I need time to things that will completely shut all the tabs off. So which unfortunately is me getting into some super dark real life documentaries, because then that's the only thing that shuts every tab in my brain off. So I'm like, that's important so that I can get the juices flowing the next day. But
what I love about that is I love that people might listen to that and have 2 reactions. One, I hope that they would be inspired that something is possible. Yeah. Like creating a schedule where you could have a nap to reset, whatever it is. Maybe it's a walk, maybe it's exercise. It doesn't matter, to each their own that way. And then there'd be others that would be like, oh, I never have enough time. And what I love about sharing stories and hearing stories like this, depending on what your priorities are, depending on what your rocks are in your personal and professional life, you can achieve whatever goal you set. You will have to give up something.
Right.
You can't be everything to everybody, not even yourself. Mm-hmm. And so once you identify the things that are the most important, you can create space for those things and then be the best version for everybody.
Right.
So,
and again, seasons, because then people sometimes are like, well, that doesn't, and I'm like, I'm not saying to do this. This is just what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, you're in a different season. You can't wake up at 4. you're up all night with your kids or whatever. And I'm like,
but this morning, so as you know, I like to, you know, and you do too. And so everyone on the panel likes to get up early and work out because it's the early mornings as you get older. It's like, that's how you know you've reached middle age because like everyone loves the early mornings.
That's how you know you've reached a really good emotional intelligence because
it's the only thing you can control in your day. Yeah. Everything after that point you can't control. Anyway, shout out to you know, one of the moms I was running with this morning. So we had a group of 5, and it slimmed down to 3. Yeah. And there was just 2 baller ladies. One is a marathoner qualified for Boston.
Oh my gosh.
But the other one is training for High Rocks. And she wakes up, so she has kids 9, 7, 5, and 1. She wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning for a 90-minute to 2-hour weight session, and then followed by another hour run. Every day, so she can be home by 7 to get her kids up. A 1-year-old, and I said, I am so inspired to hear that story because, I mean, moms have double duty in a way that
for you to say that,
Well, it was true, and I was just like, that's so inspiring. Yeah. That's so impressive. Yeah. And like, because whatever you set your mind to, and I'll talk to her more about it, but like, what other things has she had to give up for that goal? Again, you can't do everything, and I know I'm guessing you are somewhat similar. Yeah. Like you and I love just so many things. It's hard to actually get rid of stuff. It's hard. I just have so many interests, so many curiosities. It's hard to say no to stuff. Yeah. And that's my burden to bear, is to try to figure out a way to get it clear. Yeah. Last question, otherwise we will never end, is a couple years ago, you told me for like a calendar year, your mission was to say yes to everything, every opportunity, everything. And then maybe a year or 2 ago, you said, I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to say no to everything to simplify. Yeah. Where are you at today on that?
I love that you just asked that because I don't want to say I'm saying yes to a lot of things, but now I'll have people in my circle that aren't in this industry, which, you know, and we talk a lot about that, is like the understanding, you know, so they'll be like, I thought you weren't going to do that, like say yes to all these things. But like what I mean by that is like no one at Contractor Coalitions would ever say that, right? Because they understand, but anyway, so now I think I'm just really leaning into like the curiosity and leaning in. So how I answered that, because now I'm on the youth hockey board, I'm running their social media, I'm like doing the youth group church every Wednesday night, and I've never ever, and my oldest is 11, volunteered for any kid thing ever. Really? Like never. I've never showed up at the school. I hardly know my kids' teacher, like, because I've been dialed at, you know, like, and there was things I missed out on, like, unfortunately, but also not fortunately, because, you know, it's led us to what's going on. But so now I just always say, I'm leaning in, like where I'm being called. So that's what I've been saying.
I like that. I'm leaning into where I'm called.
Yeah. And that, you know, I'm not, like, we always have this intuition and gut feeling. And so, even like the youth hockey thing, I was like, you know what, this is a season and my kid might just be in hockey for a year or 2. Like he just said yes last year. I have no idea. And I was like, this doesn't have to be a forever thing. I was like, they need some help here. I was like, I actually have a gut reaction that I feel kind of good. So I'm like, I'm just gonna lean into this, say yes and explore it, curiosity, and knowing like in a month, okay, or maybe a year or whatever, and then I can shift. But so I'm not kind of doing yes or no, but I'm just like leaning into opportunities and leading with curiosity. Because also I think, especially in our industry, if we don't finish something through, and it's probably because a project, right, we feel like failures. So I'm trying to remove that from my brain too, to be like, we can lean into things for a day, a week, a month, try it, and be like, this isn't it. But that doesn't mean that you didn't fill an obligation, do something right, or succeed at it. It was just you're leaning into it to see if you could help elevate whatever it is you're being called to. And maybe it's a moment, but I just know that whatever that moment is, hopefully it'll have an impact some way and help in some situations. So,
well, thanks for leaning into this conversation.
You're the best.
Cheers. If you're interested in attending the Contractor Coalition in the future, please head to contractorcoalitionsummit.com or follow us on Instagram to find out more.